All it is war, oppression, abuse, and abuse of power more specifically. It's manipulation to convince people out of fear to worship God. I don't understand in the way they understand. I don't understand the glory and grace of God.
So the question that this girl is lifting is, we are talking about a moral God, and we're talking about moral standards. She says that there's something bad in the Old Testament and there's atrocities in the Old Testament. Why are we going to speak about atrocities and sin when we are pro-abortion? We criticize God about executing judgment over the Canaanites, over people in the Bible, including Israel. A lot of people believe God is a moral monster. A lot of people believe that God doesn't have limits. Let me just tell you this, that is your subjective truth. This is my subjective truth, but let's go straight to the standard, which is God. It's not religion, but at the end of the day, if you're telling me there's no God, at the end of my life, I'm not gonna lose anything. The next video I'm going to show you, it's something very important. It's a very important matter, important subject that we are going to speak today and we're going to talk about, because it's talking about the character of God. And also we hear, and especially me, that I'm listening to a lot of videos and going through a lot of videos lately. I hear and I listen a lot of people accusing God of being a monster, of being someone who is just hating people. And just because in the Old Testament it was said and it was demonstrated that God ordered judgment against certain people, certain towns, that doesn't mean that God didn't execute love. And that's actually what I want to show you that today. But meanwhile, we have to understand the character of God. We have to understand where God is coming from, because you cannot start reading the Bible when you don't understand the full context. And that's one of the things that in this video that I'm going to show you, this lady doesn't have the context of the whole thing. Not by you reading 100 pages of the Old Testament, you got to understand the whole Bible. And you have to understand history. You have to understand the things that it used to happen back then, when there was no law enforcement, there was no people executing the law. And you have to understand also that God is the one who he made the institution of home, or the house, or the marriage. He made the institution of the church, the institution of law. So with these three institutions, we have borders, we have warnings for the things that we have to make sure we have to walk in. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble. If I actually speed up right now, I'm going 95 miles an hour on a zone that is 65, I'm going to get a speed ticket. And probably they're going to question the way I handle myself before others driving. And this is exactly why I'm just going with this, because God gave us his law. The Bible says that his law is written in our hearts. Based on that, we can actually judge what's good, what's bad. All right, let's go straight to the video. It has some bad words, so I just want to warn you, if you have kids around you, make sure you have some discussions with them. All right, and let's go straight to the video now.
I keep coming on the internet crying and screaming because I just want someone to validate the idea that I'm not crazy for thinking that the abuse and oppression in the Bible is okay. Like, it's not just. I want someone else to externally validate me that I'm not fucking psychotic for fucking thinking that this is not okay. I don't understand this world, guys. I don't understand any of it. I don't understand how people think that what they've been taught is all that there is to know. That everybody else is wrong and they're right. How do you think that? Like, we can't possibly know unless we just all speak to each other and critically think about all of this. I encourage everyone to read the Bible, okay? And don't start in Matthew like people tell you. Start in the Old Testament. Like, this is not okay. I've been burning bridges. I feel like I can't process this. People all my life have worshipped Jesus and the God in this Bible, and so I decided as an adult I should read it myself because I should probably be aware of what I'm going to be critiquing. Like, if I'm not going to agree with something, I should probably do my due diligence and understand what I'm going to be critiquing. Guys, like, this book is horrific. Like, it's horrific. talking about the last 400 pages where Jesus comes in. I'm talking about the majority of the rest of it. All it is war, oppression, abuse, and abuse of power more specifically. It's manipulation to convince people out of fear to worship God. It's all fear. Like, all it talks about is fear. It hasn't talked about God, like, it hasn't talked about love at all. It's maybe said love once out of like the 400 pages I've read so far. This isn't like okay. Like, this isn't okay. Like, this isn't okay. Like, and what makes me cry is that people are genuinely gonna see me as psychotic. They're gonna see me as crazy. I don't understand. I don't understand in the way they understand. I don't understand the glory and grace of God. I feel like John Murphy trying to explain to everyone in the 100 that their beliefs are all just AI and science that they don't understand. That's how I feel. But instead, I'm Stephanie, the character in this world, and I'm just gonna turn fucking psychotic because I don't have the mental strength to be patient and be understanding. I just want to go psychotic because this is not okay. Like, this is not okay, guys. Whether 100 people see this video and they comment, I'm gonna pray for you, or whatever it is, or it goes viral, whatever it is. This is not okay. It's not okay. I can't.
It went viral. It went viral. And there's at least, I think, like, let me check. Just in TikTok, 53,000 people liked this video. 8,000 people, 8,500 people just commented. And you can see the comments. We're going to go into this, just to see what's going on. It's one of the comments is, this is the most sane reaction to the Bible I've ever seen. The Bible is genuinely scary. You're right. Most who follow it have never read it. Oh my gosh. It's frustrating, girl. It's decades of manipulation and you are having a breakthrough. You're so valid. Religious trauma is so real and scary. Any person who reads the Bible should have this reaction. Did we read the same book? That's some of the reactions right here and some of the comments. And like I said, we're not judging. Everybody has their own opinion about books. Now, if you are telling me, Pablo, have you read the, let's say, have you read the story of Alexander the Great? Have you read the stories of manipulation he performed? He did good things. He did horrible things too. Have you read the story about Hitler? He did horrible things, right? We condemn those stuff. We are against those stuff. We are against violence. We are against that. And I can tell you this, the God of the Old Testament is the same God today. And he doesn't want to condemn everybody. That's exactly what happened with Jesus in the cross. And just because you have a different approach, just because you haven't understood the Bible, doesn't mean you actually understand the Bible completely. We cannot actually judge the Bible just based on 4 or 5 books. We have to judge the Bible based on the whole thing. You have to have context of the whole thing. So that's why I encourage you to read the whole Bible. But if you're going to start somewhere, you always, I am going to encourage you, and listen to me, start from the Gospels. You got to understand, you're going to understand why exactly is so important for you to start reading from the Gospels, because Jesus actually quoted a lot of things from the Old Testament. Jesus actually was based, his ministry was based on the Old Testament. Based on that, just like Paul says, the book was written so we can understand, so we don't have to make the same mistakes. And I believe we haven't learned our lesson yet. That's one of the things that we as humans, we need to understand, that we haven't learned our lesson. And just because you have a different opinion about God doesn't mean God is this way. God is the objective truth. God is the standard, right? And God has to be seen as the standard of love, of the standard of judgment, of the standard of justice. That's why there's theologians. That's why there's a lot of people defending the gospel. With not only that, just telling you by me having a subjective truth, because let's just be honest, she has her subjective truth. I have my subjective truth, but the objective truth, which is the standard, it's God. It's not a religion. It's God. And I just want to I want you guys. I'm sorry. I want you guys to understand this. Everybody has a different subjective truths, but that doesn't mean we are going to agree with the objective truth, because our desires are always going to be against God. Our desires are always going to be, I want to do my own thing. That's exactly what we are demonstrating right now. And I pray, I'll be honest, I pray for her. I actually, when I saw this video, I pray for her, because there's confusion. There's stuff that she doesn't understand yet. And that's exactly why we tell you, go with someone who understands what the Bible is about. And that's why we have to preach. And I'm just going straight to the pastors who have pulpits, who have a large number of people. We need to preach the truth. We need to understand that if we don't preach things like she actually says, and I think it's a previous video, that she used to go to church and she just wanted to make sure that what she was taught, it's okay. Because, she sees a lot of violence. She sees a lot of things in the Old Testament. I'm not just going to go straight to it, but she said something very important. I'm going to make a point in this. She said something about God's love. It's spoken only just one time in the Old Testament. That is not true. And we have to understand that the Bible, if it's not said directly, it's going to demonstrate it. So I can see right now in my notes, I have 6 mentions about God's love. And the first one is in Nehemiah 9:17. And this is what it says. You are God, ready to forgive, gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love, and did not forsake them. We have to understand that, just because it doesn't specifically says God loved the world, we see that mostly in the New Testament. For God loved the world that he gave his only son. John 3:16, right? But the epitome of what we are actually explaining about God's love, it's just demonstrated throughout the whole Old Testament. And I'm just going to show you this. I'm going to explain you this, because when we go into the Torah, God is demonstrating his love, even his love with the foreign people. And he has laws to protect the foreign people, the ones who are being the ones who decided to be and walk in the desert with Moses. And I don't know if you knew this, but actually Pharaoh's daughter literally left with them. There's a verse in the Bible that it says that the queen, or not the queen, the princess, let me just put it that way, but Moses' adopted mom, left Egypt to go walk with the people of Israel. I don't know if you knew that. Let me just go with my bank. So if God hates, in quotation, people that is not from Israel, how come God has laws protecting and telling the people of Israel to protect the foreign people? That's number one, right? And my other question will be that is God arbitrary, or does he give reasons for judging people in the Old Testament? And I think the answer is referring to the Canaanites. We're going to go straight to what she's actually referring to. The Canaanites were doing awful things for at least over 400 years. And you have to remember that God was patient until he executed judgment through the Israelites. And so we get mad at God for saying, when is God when evil is in the world? Where is God when this happened to me? Where is God when this, and this happened? Yet when God comes with judgment and executes judgment over evil, we criticize God. And I'm going to tell a little bit story what the Canaanites, you can actually go see it by yourself, but they sacrificed babies to the molten hot metal god Molech. And the sacrifices were little babies. The babies were literally sizzled to death. So the question that this girl is lifting is we are talking about a moral God, and we're talking about moral standards. And I'm just going to explain it to you in this way. If she sees that, she says that there's something bad in the Old Testament and there's atrocities in the Old Testament, why are we going to speak about atrocities and sin? Why are we going to speak about killing or deleting people? I'm sorry, I have to be careful what I'm saying. But what are we talking about killing people or deleting people when we are pro-abortion? And I'm gonna show you that. I'm just gonna show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Why are people so adamant on calling abortion murder? As much as I disagree with what they have to say, I can appreciate the moral aspects to where they think they're doing the right thing morally. They think they're, saving a life, blah, 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 blah. That's admirable. I can admire the intentions behind it. But do people think that taking a life is always classified as murder? There is so much nuance in life. You have to intellectually go through so many layers of understanding to fully grasp a concept or to fully understand the circumstances of a situation. Let's use a scenario where maybe you're at a concert and someone comes up to you and they're trying to rob you. And they're very adamant on getting your stuff in your bag, and they're gonna kill you for it. Like, it is a matter of life and death. They're either leaving with that bag or they're not leaving at all. So in a moment of life and death, you have to kill that person in self-defense because they're literally attacking you and they're hurting you. That wouldn't be classified as murder because there are layers of understanding why someone makes a decision that they make. And I mean this with the most love in my heart. You are intellectually malnourished if you think that abortion in every case scenario is murder. Go somewhere in the world and nourish your intelligence. Broaden your awareness. Talk to people where they've been in situations that they did not want to be in, but they had to make a hard decision, and it was either life or death. I'm getting a little heated now, but it's just so frustrating seeing people being like, abortion is murder, and there's no if, ands, and buts. There are so many if, ands, and buts. You're so intellectually malnourished if you think otherwise. Why are people so adamant?
See what I'm saying? We criticize God about executing judgment over the Canaanites, over people in the Bible, including Israel. I'm just going to be completely clear with you. He executed judgment against his own people. They went to exile. They died because of the sin they committed against God. God gave explicit orders. God gave explicit limits. And by you having, at the end of the day, when you come to God and say, God, I want you to be my God. I want you to be my Savior. I want to obey you because of the thankfulness in my heart. I want to obey you because I have thankfulness in my heart. Not because you demanded it, but because I love you and this is the way I want to express my love. This is the way I want to give you my worship. I want to give you worship that you deserve. And when we see that God is executing judgment because he is God, at the end of the day, we have to understand that he is God and he can kill us right now. He can actually give life. He can actually take life. You are not God. Now, what she said, at the end of the day, abortion, it's plain to be, or we are plain to be God. That's exactly what abortion is right now. But I understand where she's coming from. I understand there's situations where people does bad things. That doesn't mean you have to take life. That doesn't mean you have to execute judgment with something inside of your body, something that God already allowed to be created. Why God allows things in the world? Why God allows things? Because if he doesn't allow things to happen, then he is not the moral principle and the moral standard. That's why we have free will. Come on, people. Come on. Come on. We have to understand this. Why we have to understand this? Why the Old Testament explicitly tells the leading of many people throughout the journey of the people of Israel to the Promised Land was like this. Well, we have to know the context of what the text is explaining. Number two, Why is it that when God plays God in the Old Testament, when he chooses who lives and who dies, now all of a sudden he's immoral? When people play God, just like we saw right now in this video, she is pro-abortion. When people play God, and that's exactly what we're doing on earth, and decides who lives and who dies through abortion, through death penalty, that's a moral right. That is a moral right. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. People claims God can be God, but we can't. That's nuts. That is nuts. That we understand that we are the ones making decisions for God. We are not God. We don't create life. We are just people who are part of the creation process. Understand that. Your body, my body, what I have in me, my wife has in her, is just part of the creation process. But technically, we don't create life. We are not people who creates life. Simply, we are part of the people in the process of life, creating life. Let me just be honest with you. And why this is actually so bad for a lot of people, because a lot of people believe the lie. A lot of people believe God is a moral monster. A lot of people believe that God doesn't have limits. Let me just tell you this. That is your subjective truth. This is my subjective truth. But let's go straight to the standard, which is God. It's not religion. It's not Islam. It's not Christianism. It's not Mormonism. The standard is God. His word says that we, in our hearts, we have written the law of God. So if you have that in your heart, if you know what's good and bad, that's exactly what I am talking about right now. For you to understand that we claim God again. We claim that God can be God, but we can't. Who gave you the authority to do so? Guys, I'm just going to go straight to the point. Let's be honest. We are people who don't want to be close to God. We are people who doesn't want to be near God. We don't want to hear about God because we want to do our own thing. And you are executing your own free will. That it's okay. Nobody's making you do and think otherwise. But at the end of the day, if you're telling me there's no God, at the end of my life, I'm not going to lose anything. Or maybe at the end of my life and at the end of your life, there was afterlife and there was a God. And maybe you're going to lose everything. Think about it. And I'm just going to leave with this. Subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button, and just support the channel. All right, I'll see you guys next time.